Kalpana, welcome to Career in Progress, a podcast about building the skills that build your career. I am so thrilled to have this conversation on your creative career today on this podcast.
Thank you so much, Purnima. I really appreciate your time. I look forward to our conversation.
Likewise, I'm so happy that I have my two friends, my dedicated pen, and my learning journal or notebook to take notes and learn from you. Kalpana, let's start at the beginning. You are an award winning author with many publications to your credit and two wonderfully insightful and witty books, Daddykins, a memoir of my father and I, and an English made in India, how a foreign language became local. You also write the popular Substack newsletters, letters from everywhere, and so much to say. Before, your career in writing, you actually started your career as a software engineer with
Yes.
over a decade with IBM, right? My first question is, how did your journey in writing begin, and how did you think about moving from a very defined career to a creative career, which is much more of defining it by yourself?
Very true. So I have a degree in English, sort of to go back a little. I grew up in India mostly, but I also grew up, my formative years were in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, so in East Africa. And then I went back to India for college. And when I was 23, I came to America. After I got married to my husband, I came to America, and that was in 1985, January. So by then, I had a degree in English and a diploma in journalism, and I was very much set to pursue a career in writing. But when I came to America, that too to Silicon Valley, everybody was talking tech. Life was all
Yes,
there was
I
there was
hear you.
absolutely no recognition, or nobody talked about people like me. And I think I was way too young. I was barely, as I said, 23. And I don't think I thought it through. In fact, prior to that, I had actually got admission at Bloomington, Indiana, which apparently is a very good school for
Are you?
journalism.
Yeah. Are
Um,
you Bloomington?
uh, I got admission at Bloomington,
Awesome.
and I waited because I waited for a year in India for my green card. It just so happened, my husband said, "Oh, what's the point? I mean, if you come here, you mean you're going to uh, take off to Bloomington? Forget it. Why would you do that kind of thing?" And that's it. The plans were shelved at that point, and I decided to remain here. And prior to then, in India, I had taken a Pascal
Hmm.
development course,
So
programming
for the
course.
younger listeners, Pascal was one of the original languages for computer,
That's right.
development. So yeah.
Yeah. And I enjoyed it, actually. I really enjoyed it. I'd always imagined my mathematics was weak. I didn't get the best grades in high school in math. And a teacher who I today will curse endlessly told me I wasn't great at it. And so, you know how that is in your formative years when someone tells you, I don't think you're great at math or whatever, and you're very good at writing or something. It really makes an impact, right, on you.
It
And I
does.
came to America and I said, I do want to try to do something in computer science. And so this meant many years of prereqs for me. I started with algebra, believe it or not, here in the community college in Evergreen Valley, San Jose. And I found myself doing very well. A fabulous teacher. I was doing extremely well. And it turns out I really enjoyed programming. I didn't do very well in hardcore engineering subjects. My background was not great. But overall, I did pretty well for someone who didn't have the requisite background. I was competing with students in engineering and so on. Didn't do badly at all. So, anyway, at IBM, I did have a good time. But there was a time when in 1998, Mohan got the chance to go on a sabbatical to Paris. Paris, oh my God,
The
who would not
place.
want to go?
The
All
place.
four of us, our whole family went there for a year. The children were 8 and 4. When they were in school, I decided to write. I was also taking a few workshops while I was there in writing and so on. So I really figured because I could not work that year, I didn't have the visa for working that year, I decided to put all my energy into writing.
Hmm.
And that's when it really, it really sank into me that this is what I enjoyed more than anything else in the world. And when we returned, I had an opportunity because IBM was doing a what is called voluntary retirement package. Literally 3 months after I landed and went back to IBM, I got the opportunity. And I just came home, went home, told my husband I was doing it. Not a happy camper at all, but I did it and no regrets at all. You know, if you measure success by the amount of money you're making, then I'll say that something like this has not been the greatest thing for me. You're always going to make much more as a programmer and so on in this valley. But if you measure it by the sort of satisfaction you're getting and the sort of responses you're getting from the community of both ordinary lay people and writers, then you know that, this is really the right place. No regrets at all for me with respect to this choice. Yeah.
I love that. First of all, Kalpana, as always, I'm a huge fan of your writing. I'm a huge fan of your storytelling as well.
Thank you.
It's just so engaging to hear. And I hear you, the success is such a subjective word, right? It is what you define it to be. And I think you said it so well. Though in the Valley style, you did talk about KPIs, key performance indicators, and you said, you're not measuring that, you're measuring something else, which is true. You're always measuring something. So
Right.
that's so
Thank you.
well
Yeah.
said and very encouraging, for I can relate to that. I started my career as a software engineer. To many in my family's disappointment, I left it and moved into teaching. And, that was like, why would you do that? You have the best job in the world. But I knew that wasn't giving me the satisfaction that I wanted. So I can
That's right.
totally
Exactly.
relate to what you're saying. Kalpana, you now received numerous awards and accolades in your writing, from your work as a columnist in India Currents magazine to winning the New America Media Prize and the San Francisco Peninsula Press Club Awards. Your commentaries have also been featured in NPR, Business Week Online, San Jose Mercury News, San Francisco Chronicles, and Better Homes and Gardens, and so many more. Writing is often seen as a talent, but what skills did you have to deliberately build to make a creative career a consistent one and a sustainable one that you have today? I mean, accomplishments look great, but were there any skills you had to build for that?
Um, marketing is, of course, a very
Mm,
big part of the work we always do. And it's sometimes, you cringe when you do marketing. But unfortunately, that is part of the business. So much of it is in how you present yourself. And that's one thing that I realized when I came to America. It wasn't enough to just do your work sitting in a corner. You really needed to be able to talk about your work, right?
love that.
That's one thing I think um, across the board. And I've heard my husband say this so many times, and I've seen it. I've seen people who are not as talented, who have the longest brag sheet and so on. This is part of who you are in this country. And I think around the world, a lot of it is about how you present yourself. And as part of the presentation, one of the things that I found I needed to work on was public speaking. um, because I remember how at IBM I would freeze if I had to go and present my work in front of a bunch of people. People aren't always pleasant, right? I mean, my group had a bunch of old people who were very, very rough and tough. I would just freeze in front of all those people. And the more you feel like that, the more you sort of go into your shell, right? So I'd always told myself that when I got into the writing career, I should try to work on public speaking. What I realized was, and this is something I keep observing, the best writers are not the best presenters of their work. And it's sort of sad, you go in, there's a writer, let's say, whom I admire so much, and then I go to hear that person and I'm thinking, come on, this is it.
So
You
they're two
couldn't,
different skills,
yeah.
clearly.
And the thing is,
Yeah.
that sort of colors your experience of that work. And in fact, many times I don't like to go and listen to one of my favorite writers or read about their personal lives. Sometimes that puts me off. So, in any case, I'm coming back to this point about presenting your work. I realize that it is a skill to read your work to an audience. So, that is one part of it. The other part of it is learning to talk about your work. So, both those things needed to be addressed. So, I sought opportunities to present my work a lot. I'd go for all these open mic sessions and so on that are available all around the valley. I sought those a lot. And then I decided, some friends told me about it, and I'd heard of it before because I think IBM also had ads about Toastmasters and so on. Doing that for a few years, I did that actually pretty late well after I started writing. So that was a fantastic experience. I think I did it for some 3 years or so. And I realized that there was nothing for me to fear. Toastmasters has this thing where you sort of pick something from a hat kind of thing. They give you a topic and you have to stand in front of all the people for about 1.5 minutes and just say
Yeah.
what you think.
Yeah.
And people would say, listen, you do a very nice job of those, right? That gave me so much added confidence and so on. So I think that was a very big deal for me. Marketing, presenting, public speaking, all of that. And the other thing, of course, which no one ever can help you with, that is the ability to take rejection. That,
Yeah.
I think, in the world of writing, in fact, there's a very famous line about Stephen King, the very famous writer Stephen King. Every rejection he got, he nailed it to the wall or something, because looking at that was a reminder about how far along he had come in his career and so on.
So it wasn't a
So,
wall of fame per se, but it was a wall of learning in some way.
learning in a way, yeah.
Right?
And the problem though is I didn't have that. I didn't have that as much. I would get very upset. When I got rejected, I would actually take it personally. And I would not turn around and send whatever it was that got rejected off to another place. You know what I mean? The
Absolutely.
best, the grittiest people, and I'm very fortunate to have met several of them in a writing group that I belong to. They have what's called the next list. It gets rejected, it goes to the next one, it gets mailed to the next one, and then on and on and on. And this is how a bunch of my friends who are mentors to me have published in all kinds of literary journals. I wish I had more of that. And I'm cultivating it. I'm really now working on that aspect of myself, of not like, I'll give you an example. In the maybe a last couple of um, 2 or 3 weeks, I've actually been working on, I sent out an essay to New York Times. In the past, I would send it out waiting, hoping that it will be picked up, right? Now I know that it's not going to be picked up. But the very fact that I had to write something, when I got the idea, I started writing about it and taking a thought and writing it to completion. It really takes a lot of work. I was telling someone, it's like biting into a coconut. Honestly, it is the hardest thing to take something and really make meaning out of this idea and drive it to completion. I did that, and I haven't heard back. I should have heard back in about 3 days, 3 working days. I haven't heard back. Now I have to send it off to another place, sort of getting ready to do that. But this is the new Kalpana. The old Kalpana would just put it away and that's it, you know. So we are constantly having to build some of these skills as writers. The other thing is the courage of conviction to do what you believe, to stand by what you do, what you wrote, kind of thing. And I had such an experience with Daddykins, my first book. The editor at Bloomsbury basically comes to me one day and says, your book ended here at a particular point, which was 5 chapters away from where I believed it should end. So I had set out the book, the opening of the book says, my father passed away, right? People want to know how he passed away. But here was my editor saying, oh no, the book ended here.
Mm,
And
that's
there
hard
was no way
feedback.
I was going to agree to that, because
Yeah.
the last 5 chapters were critical to it. And there were so many important things in that chapter about my father. And I contacted without without talking to this woman. I said, I'm just going to go way up. I went up to the executive editor at the time of the publisher, and I just wrote. I still remember I didn't sleep all night.
I
I
can
was
believe
so
that.
upset.
Yeah.
I didn't sleep all night. I wrote a 3,000-word email as to why it had to be thus, with all kinds of evidence, with every little thing laid out. And I remember my husband came in and said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm walking away from this deal. If it means that it's not going to be published the way I want
Mm,
it published, then I'm walking away from the deal. It's important that I'm heard this way. And that, I mean, I think it's the first time I've ever done this kind of thing. And I think it's very important for writers or for anybody to be able to have that kind of conviction. I think
wow.
it makes for a better, I think, work ethic, better attitude, better work itself, and so on. So to be able to stick to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, Kalpana, thank you so much for being honest and open about your journey. I truly appreciate that. And I'm going to summarize this just so that I take away so many exceptional nuggets that you have shared. Learn to read to your audience is all about communication. Communication is about how others receive it versus how you say it. That's what
True.
I heard
Yeah.
as a
Hmm.
skill from you.
Hmm.
Learn to talk about your work is creating your personal brand. How do you create your personal brand? That's really important and very hard. I hear you. Very hard for a lot of us who come from the background of let your work speak for itself. Then speaking about your work is not something that's considered doable or even like something you would do it. Sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. Because no, we
Yeah.
prize, at least the way we were all raised. I mean, you're a lot younger than I, but I was raised with the idea that humility and modesty were absolutely key. In everything you do, humility is so important. This is how a lot of us were brought up.
Yes,
For
very much
instance, we
so.
were not allowed to speak up when there were elders in the room. You didn't speak your mind. So many of these things came back to bite.
Absolutely. I
So
mean, I grew up just like you in a large family, so I
yeah,
can resonate with that. But
yeah,
I think as somebody who's been in learning and development for, so many years that I have been, I think we learn to distinguish humility from talking about yourself. They are two completely different skills and they don't have to be, contradicting each other. And I love what you said, which is that's a skill to build. The next you said, seek out for opportunities. Like Toastmasters, you went out. So put yourself out there, is what I heard from that. Ability to take rejection, that's really tough. Really tough. That grit that you stand up next day again is a tough one. And the last one you said, have conviction about what you do, which is bring your authentic self in whatever you do, because that's when you produce your best quality of work. I'm going to put you on the spot. For somebody, I mean, I see these skills as skills, like you said, for writing, but for any career, right? Any career that you want to build, these are skills that are required. What are some of the ways in which you learned to create your brand and talk about yourself? You've talked about elevator pitches quite a bit in your work, and I read that. Would love for our audiences to have one or two tips on how do
Uh-huh.
you do that, and
How to
especially for the
build your
next.
brand.
How do you build your brand? How do you have that elevator pitch? How do you come up and speak to it? Because I believe it's really hard to speak about yourself.
So, with respect to brand, many years ago, actually, I got into writing in 2000, year 2000, and 2000, I think. And about 3 or 4 years after that, I was traveling somewhere when I picked up a book called Brand. Make
Wow.
yourself a brand. I don't know if I have it even today, but I remember jotting down a lot of important points. And I really felt that it was important to sort of look deep inside yourself and figure out what it is about you that is very unique, that the world may be interested in. And over again, one of the things, especially in my writing and my speaking and all that, people would say it was the humor. There's always a
Yes.
light touch that you
I
have.
agree with that.
Yeah, that stands out, right? Uh, But the thing is, so many of the topics that you write about are great topics of a tremendous amount of gravity, right? They are not always light. But even in the most tragic of situations, there's always a moment of a glimmer of humor, or something that you chuckle at, whatever, right? So you do have to be able to leverage some of your innate skills. So for
Mm,
me, humor was a big deal, and
mm,
I tried to use that. And in fact, I try to use that in every essay. I try to bring that out. And what I've also done is, in writing, we are told to look in your backyard for topics. So if I'm thinking of writing about something, in fact, I'm currently working on pieces for the San Jose Mercury News, where they're all about, the section is called Eat, Drink, and Play. In fact, one of them was published a couple of weeks ago about the Los Altos History Museum, where there is an old 100-year-old house called the Smith House, right? So most of these things are like the Smith House. They are all in the backyard. The ideas are in the backyard if you're willing to look for them. So just, keeping an eye out is important. Writing about just about everything. I've written about the man who came to fix my fridge, I remember. Then I wrote about the guy who came to fix our water heater. Something. You start talking to people, there are ideas everywhere. And like you very much said, you can learn from everybody. And that's one thing, I think the wisdom that we have around us has to be captured. And I was telling you how I've been writing about my grandson who was born in the end of May. I think there's so much wisdom in babies, man. So I've been writing. I've already crossed 3,000 words of writing about this boy. Every other week or every week, I have a little post out,
yeah, I've
and
been following
it's
that.
something. Yeah, it's something that makes me want to capture that moment of that baby's life and see how it relates to something that's going on in the world. So there are ideas everywhere if only we are willing to look out for them. The other thing that I've started doing in the last 3 to 4 years, I hope I'm addressing this thing about brand. Am I?
You're
Yeah.
absolutely great. Yes, you
Okay.
very much are. I am
Yeah.
hearing, things that you're saying, which is we're always looking to develop our skills in areas which are not strong, but
Yes.
lean into your strengths. Your humor
Yes.
was your strength. That's how
Yes.
I'm hearing. So, yes, your brand
Yes.
doesn't
That's it.
have to be what you don't have. It should also be what you have and use
Right.
more of that. And I see that
Right.
in, your writing,
Thank
which
you.
is, you
Thank
said the
you.
humor, even if the topic is heavy and there is
Right.
learning everywhere. So, yes.
Yes. Thank you.
That's what I'm catching on.
Yeah. And I really think to the point about learning and to the point about going after something you don't have, right? That is also, being progressive, being a positive thinker also means trying to learn from everything. And for me, I really genuinely felt that there was a time in my life when I didn't do enough reading. And I would say there was a time in my life I read voraciously. And then during my teenage years, I was into romances. Wrong. I shouldn't have done that. But I wasted a lot of time in Mills and Boons. Anyway,
Everybody did that,
critical,
Kalpana.
yeah,
Everybody did that.
critical time was wasted. Anyway, and then of course I came here, I was studying. There wasn't time for me to read enough. When you have children, life is,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
sort of, you're caught in so many things.
The reading
But
you get into at that time is more of the
uh, e-
children's books and,
exactly,
you know,
exactly. So
reading. Yeah.
you're absolutely right. I was exposed to this world of children's literature. Interestingly, I started reading when I had children. And
Mm,
while I began, at some point, I even thought about, should I get into children's writing? But you will be surprised what a difficult business that is.
sure.
In fact, there is a woman called Suma Subramaniam who's found a lot of success in children's writing. And I told her even the other day that, it is such a difficult business to get into. It's one of the hardest things to do. And she's found amazing amount of success with India related stories here in the US. So I started reading a lot to the kids, and then Paris, of course, helped. And slowly I realized I wasn't reading enough. And that was one of the things that led me to this project of mine on Substack, which is books in translation. It's called
Yeah.
Letters from
Yeah.
Everywhere. And I write about one book per week. I try very hard to not let my life derail me, but it sometimes does, as it did when I had a grandson and all that. But I try hard to learn every day, and every week I'm trying to learn about one new thing. This is how I look at it. Yeah.
Wow. So your brand is lean into your strength of humor. So always think about your strengths.
Uh-huh.
Your brand is you're learning constantly from everything around you. The third, your brand is when you're really focused on what you want to accomplish, even if there is derailments happening, which is you're really passionate about it. And fourth, your brand is something that you can speak with conviction, which is what I saw in you, right?
Thank
So,
you.
so
You're
that's
great at summary.
thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Means a lot. I think your grandson, first of all, is so lucky that, he'll have so many wonderfully captured moments so eloquently, as he grows up. So that's
Hope
amazing.
he does. He likes them.
I'm sure he would. Uh, Kalpana, for somebody really working towards a career of grit, what are one or two tips and what are one or two practices that you would advise them to take on?
With respect to grit, I think, every disappointment, I think, is a jump off point, right?
Oh,
You have to sort of look at every little thing that did not go too well and then figure out, because somebody said, right, my success was built on a bunch of many failures or something like that. So I think with every little thing, every disappointment, for instance, I was telling you how I didn't, the New York Times is not going to publish that essay, let's say. How can I turn this around and make it work for some other place? And that is how I'm constantly thinking, okay, if it doesn't work for them, where else might it work? Or I keep it aside, I put it aside, somewhere else in my life, some other
Mm,
essay is going to take a little bit of it and it's going to, uh, you know, use that. So there's always, I think, nothing you do is wasted, is one
mm,
thing that I have learned.
I
Because
love
I,
that.
I do have to say that I'm working on my third book. And
Yes.
when I sent
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. And when I sent something out recently to one of my friends, she had a look at it and she said, I want you to really write this as something very personal. The opening chapter, I want it to be very personal, she said. And I thought it was personal enough, but when I went into my computer and I started looking for all the things that I had written, and this was with respect to my mother, I found a section, and this dates back it goes back all the way to 2006. I found that and I got some 500 words from
Wow.
there and I put it into this. And, you've got to, and then the other thing is listening to other people, right?
Mm,
So much of um, at least I think my growth has been listening to my friends who are sometimes my close readers and some writing friends. So those are non-writing friends. And then I have these writing friends who are my writing colleagues, but they're also my mentors. I always try to, when they critiqued my manuscript in a working, in our sessions, I would always try to see what they are trying to say. So there's so much to learn from other people's experience of your work. Um,
mm, I love that. I think
yeah,
I've
so
heard so much in this. Like, how do you take rejection to redirection? Right, which is you've been rejected, that's all right. How do you, like you
all the
said,
time.
how do you have that
Yeah,
next step document
yeah,
rejection
right,
to redirection? How are you
right.
looking at the long term versus short term, which is nothing you do is wasted, which is what you
Nothing.
said so
Yes, yes.
beautifully. And then
Nice.
the third thing you said so well that I heard was, how do you have, somebody else in another podcast of mine, and I learned so much through these, called them the board of directors, which is your personal board of directors have to be,
Oh, really? Nice.
yeah, have to be a, set of people, not
Uh-huh.
just one set, but a different set of people. Like you
Right,
said, people who write, people who don't write, so that you get
right.
the perspectives from all sides, which is so important to actually, growing in what you do. So really, thank you for sharing that.
And there's one other thing actually, and
Yeah,
this is something that I was told years ago. So when you write something, they say put it away. Put it away. Don't think you should publish it right away because you take something out of the drawers and you look at it 10 years later, there's so much wisdom you can bring into it many years later. So you're very short-sighted. Is basically it's saying
absolutely.
give it the gift of time, and you are going to be able to invest it with a lot more wisdom
I love.
and intelligence and all of that. And I've found that to be true over and over again. I've done that quite a lot. In fact, sometimes I forget that something is sitting there,
Mm,
and
it's
then I
it's
go in there and I'm surprised it's there. It's always useful for something else, or I overhaul it.
Yeah, no, that's
So
so true. It's almost like a closet, right? Where you buy
right,
things, you put it, it goes back, you don't
goes
remember it,
back.
but then it
Right,
it comes out, you use it in different ways, just like you said.
right,
I love that.
right.
Kalpana, I'm going to switch a gear here.
Sure.
In this world of AI, artificial intelligence, where, almost everybody is beginning to sound like Shakespeare, right? And everybody can make everything sound really great using some
Yes.
of the tools that are there.
Yes.
I would love to hear your perspective on AI and where
So
do you
glad you
see it?
asked me this.
Fantastic.
I'm so glad you asked me. So, there was a time
Mm,
about a year or so ago So obviously all my nieces, nephews, all of them are in, the valley companies, and some of them
Sure.
are heavily in AI and all that.
Yeah.
And I actually got mad at my nephew for saying, Kalpana auntie, I guess now the, AI will be writing your stuff and all that. I really took it. I felt insulted and all that, and I got mad at him. But I think I did not pause to reflect on what exactly he was trying to tell me, which is that this could be a great tool for your writing. And much later, several months later, a friend was saying, "Hey, Kalpana, have you looked at ChatGPT? Have you really, really looked at ChatGPT?" And he said, "Just go look at it. Just check it out." And he said, "As a tool, this could be a tool for you." I looked at it and I started playing with it. Let me tell you, today, it's one of the tools that I'm using in terms of my looking for publishing opportunities. So
Hmm.
I don't use it for the creative work. I genuinely feel um, it can't do anything for me in that regard. But I use it, for instance, let's say I'm trying to publish my big area of interest is writing essays. So I read a lot and really looking towards that. This kind of life writing appeals to me, and essays basically
Lend itself.
my writing lends itself nicely
Yeah.
to essay writing, right? So I went to ChatGPT and I said, okay, I want to start writing essays. Tell me about how I can build this skill. Tell me where I can publish.
Hmm.
And it starts, I start asking questions, and it tells me, here is a list of places that take essays. And this is these are the sorts of essays that have been published there. Would you like me to pull up 5 of
Yeah.
these? And I say yes,
Yeah.
and it pulls up those. And then it says, would you like me to give you submission dates and so on? And so we have a conversation. By the time I'm done, I've got 10 pages of how I should go about um, writing, shooting for submitting essays. So it's a phenomenal tool that in the past, all of us would go to what's called writers' market, which every year would be updated, and you would go to get this tome at the library. It's just a reference that you get at the library, but so using it as a tool is just fantastic. So I was very short. What shall I say? I was closed-minded before
Hmm.
with my nephew. And today I use it as a tool, and I know I will continue to use it. Or let's say I was writing a piece about my grandson. It was about the clothes that he was wearing. And that too, I needed to research something, and I quickly went to ChatGPT to do the research. So it was just to get the name of something or whatever, right? Those are not just Google. ChatGPT, I think, does a
Yes.
does a more thorough job of some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great tool for
I
all
love that
writers.
because there is so much debate right now around
Yeah,
AI. Is it enhancing creativity? Is
yeah,
it taking away creativity? So from what I hear from you
yeah.
is
It's a
create
tool.
it's a tool that's helping you do other things so that you can
Exactly.
actually focus on creativity even
In
more.
fact, yeah.
It
In fact,
right?
there is a fantastic discussion between Trevor Noah and Bernie Sanders. A
I have
very
seen that.
recent one,
I
actually.
have actually seen that one.
Oh,
Yeah.
do please
Yeah.
listen. It's the yeah. What now? I think it's called,
Yeah.
right? Trevor,
Yeah.
Trevor.
Yeah. Trevor
What now?
Noah's. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're talking about AI. So what is the ultimate goal of this thing? And I'm wondering too, what are we need tools to help us, but not to eliminate us, to make us inconsequential. So I hate where people are leading us, but the idea is to make our lives better and to not make all philosophers out of all of us. you know.
And I
So
think a big
let's
part of that is what you said, which is how
yeah,
do we
yeah,
become one, open
yeah,
minded to
yes,
try, two, how do we become more creative to seek the right help?
Yes.
Right, I think that is such an
Yes.
important part of this journey, which is where
Hmm.
can it, I mean, I have actually started calling artificial intelligence, AI, augment I, because
I
that's
see.
where I
Develop,
see it's augmenting my
update
need.
yourself. I
Yes,
see.
in places where it can augment me, but creativity may not be the place. Many things I do may not be the place, but research, like you said, is a good place to lean into, I find as well. So, so
Very
great to
nice.
hear your perspective, because especially in the creative world, this is such a debate. In every world it is, but more so in the
Yeah.
creative world. I love that.
Yeah.
So you talked about, writing as a skill. You talked about research as a skill to become a writer. You talked about gathering information, distilling that as, a skill that you need. What are some of the other skills that you need to be a writer?
I think the curiosity, I think
Ah, I
always
love that.
endlessly, being endlessly curious about stuff. So when I travel, so I
Mm.
don't sort of remove my writer's hat at all wherever I go and wherever I am, right? If it's a hike or, wherever it is. So whenever we go on trips, I'm always writing as I travel. And one of
So
my
do
friends
you
whom I
travel with a traditional pen and paper everywhere, or
No,
what's how
with
do you
my
write?
computer,
With computer.
my phone
Okay.
and everything.
Okay.
And my friend whom I travel with her quite a lot, she'll say, Kalpana, why are you not resting? Why are you not taking it easy? Why are you always working? Because at night I'll sit and write about the day, right? And that takes a lot of work sometimes because you
Correct.
have to sit. Let's say we were in Cambodia and I'm researching the history. I might be writing just 400, 500 word pieces, but you can't just, spew nonsense either. So sometimes I'm doing the research also while I'm traveling, and that takes a lot of energy. But I think that makes my whole travel experience exciting, more exciting. I
Mm.
also do this business of wherever I go, I like to read literature from the place, local
Mm.
to the place.
I love that.
So I try to get books from the library or I try to buy before I go. When I'm there, I'm definitely buying local local authors. So always trying to keep my eyes open, I think, is one. The other thing that I forgot to say was, I think one of the greatest things to remember. It's not a skill, but it is a way of being. I think two things. One was told to me by a guy called Tony, um, a great friend, writing friend, and mentor. He told me about this thing and he practices it. Believe me, he practices it daily. I've seen that in him. About this idea of mudita. Mudita meaning being joyful for someone else's happiness. You
Wow.
know,
Tell me
that
more.
it's a Buddhist, it's a philosophy. It is a in Buddhism to always be joyous for someone else's happiness. And you know how often you might have heard of this term called Schadenfreude. I hope I'm saying this right. It's a German term for how some people take joy out of somebody else's tragedy. So think of this as I think of this as the uh, um, diametric opposite, kind of. Yeah, meaning you can't happy for somebody else's happiness. It's such a great quality to have.
Does
And
that reflect empathy too in certain ways?
a sort of, yeah, I would think so. I would think so. But being genuinely happy for somebody, there is a difference. And so when someone else, so this is something that writers have to do. And I learned it from my writing group. And I will always be thankful to the person who started the writing group. She's a book buyer at Kepler's. Her name is Aggie Zivaljevic. And Aggie had this wonderful quality where for every meeting, I mean, you'll see she'll bring a ton of books to
Mm.
give away to people,
Wow.
and whenever she analyzes somebody's work, you can see how much heart and soul she has put into the critique. She goes over and above and beyond what is expected of someone who's analyzing your work. And then this other person called Jean. Um, these are all my wonderful friends.
I hear
Jean
them as your
taught
board
me,
of directors. Yeah.
yes, Jean taught me about gratitude. And this is something that is so critical for all of us in across the board, I think. She writes something called this gratitude journal,
I love that. Yeah.
and she writes three things, I think, that she's grateful for that
Hmm.
morning. Write it at the beginning of the day. What are
Mm.
you grateful for?
Not at
And
the end of
boy,
the day,
yeah, beginning of the day. And
beginning
I
of the
think
day.
it makes sense when you do that. And I was telling my husband this on the day when three things went kaput in my house. The pressure cooker died, the
That's a
coffee
big
machine
one.
broke,
Oh my God. That's really hard now.
and then there was water. We had a problem under the kitchen sink.
Oh, no.
It was flooded. So I was thinking, okay, you've got to be grateful for certain things. So this is a reminder to be grateful that it all happened a certain way.
No,
You know,
I love
the
that.
pressure was not on; it was on steam, so it didn't uh,
Burst.
burst.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
That can
things
be
like that, right?
dangerous. Yeah.
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 So these are some of the things that we have to have alongside grit and everything to make the whole thing a pleasant experience.
I love that.
Um, yeah,
Pleasant experience is a nice way to really think about
yeah,
things, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
we are usually in an experience, we don't think about the pleasantness of it. That's what makes
Right.
it harder, right? When we get to an
Exactly.
experience. Kalpana,
Right.
this has been so fun talking to you. I
Thank
am
you.
going to switch our gears into something I
Sure.
call the rapid fire, which
Uh-huh. Oh
is
my God.
five
Uh-huh.
questions that I'm not putting you on a timer, but typically a minute or minute and a half per
My
question
God.
to answer. No
Uh-huh.
pressure, no right or wrong on answers. No algebra in this one for sure. So you can so you can
Okay.
definitely relax and speak. Uh, Question one for you. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received about creativity?
It's about with respect to writing, is that okay? With writing?
Sure, absolutely.
So write short, write every day.
Ah, consistency matters.
Yes, very
I
much.
love
And I
that.
found that probably one of the most valuable pieces of advice for early on in my career from a lady called Linda Watanabe at Book Passage.
I love that. And you mentioned something that was ringing in my mind. You said, you were writing on your trips and you tried to write just 400 words or 500 words. Actually, that just 400 is so much harder than writing 4,000,
Exactly.
because
Exactly.
making something
Short.
complex, simple,
Right.
and short
Yes.
is the
Is
hardest thing
very
to do.
hard.
So
Exactly.
write consistent, write short. That's your
Right
advice.
short. What
Awesome.
she would say is when you're consistent,
Hmm.
you actually build towards something. And what I didn't realize was that consistency was what built the book about my father. Because when I
Oh.
went to India to take care of him, I was doing precisely what Linda said, which is write every day, write just that much, interact with the people. You write something, put it out on Facebook, social media, see what people are saying and communicate with them. And I remember so many people would say, listen, there's a book here. Have you thought about it? And that's how this book idea even happened. So, yeah.
So be agile, know your audience, interact
Yes.
with,
Yeah.
prototype, test, just like they say in the product
Yes.
world, right?
Wow.
Prototype, test
Wonderful.
it, and get more insights. I love that. For anybody, Kalpana, who is pursuing a career in a creative field like
Huh?
writing and beyond, what is the one piece of advice that you will say, hang in there, keep doing? that would encourage them to keep going? I've heard you say resilience, grit,
Yeah, yeah.
consistency. What is a one daily habit, uh, you know, that they should build?
Yeah, something different from the work itself.
Absolutely,
Yeah, I
100%.
would say exercise because
Ah,
I think very many times, so no matter what, my husband and I try to get the 1 hour of exercise. No matter what the day is. Some people say, we go only 4 days a week or whatever. I say, let's go every day. Let's
mm,
just do something different. Let's go every day because there are always going to be a couple of days in the week when you, for whatever reason, you may not go. If,
mm,
during the weekend, you may have an engagement or whatever. But exercise, I think, really clears my head.
mm.
That's the time I'm listening to a podcast, which then informs, I come back and it informs something I'm doing. So, absolutely.
So
Never fail.
exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I hope you listen to this podcast as well, Kalpana, on
I will.
one of your exercise
I will
routines.
add it. Definitely.
The next question for you, a book or author who always inspires you and wants you to go back and read more?
My
I know it's like
God.
a kid in the candy
Yes.
store question for you.
Yeah.
Uh,
There's an amazing book called Remains of the Day.
mm,
Um, a book by Kazuo Ishiguro. He is Japanese British. Believe it or not, it was my son. My son was 14 then, I remember. And he told me to read this book. So he was always a voracious reader, as was our daughter. But this fellow had a knack of picking certain books. And he said, I really want you to read this. I don't think any book has touched me that deeply. Remains of the Day. There is a movie. There is a movie with Sir Anthony Hopkins,
okay.
but I strongly recommend that you read the book before you watch the movie. Yeah,
Understood.
so
I
that's
have
one.
taken
Yeah,
that book down. I love reading. So thank you for
yes.
adding
Thank
to
you. Sure.
my book collection and to many who are listening. The next question for you, Kalpana. What's your ritual when you hit a writer's block?
Uh,
Is it coffee? Is it cakes? Is it what?
no, none of that. I think I just go out to the yard, just walk around the house, maybe listen to some music, maybe cook, just do something, just get out of the room if it's not working. I try not to plug away because it's pointless.
Mm,
Yeah, but luckily I can sort of bring myself. I can push away the writer's block pretty quickly. I don't
nice.
have too much of
Yeah.
trouble. Or as I said, I just work on something else. Sometimes just working on something else and coming back to this helps you.
So don't dwell
So
too much on it.
don't
Step
dwell.
away.
Yeah, yeah.
Step away. Take a break and clear your mind. And often
Clear
that
your
works for
mind.
you. I love
Works.
that.
Yeah,
I think that's so practical in so many ways, in so
yeah,
many things we do, including doing dishes on the sink, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
just stepping
Exactly.
away exactly makes it
Yeah.
better. Kalpana, the
Oh,
last
yeah.
question. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
or have a shower because in the shower you get so many ideas. Oh my God.
As a musician, I can relate to that one too,
Yes.
which is, yes, that's some of your most creative time.
Creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kalpana, last question for you. If you had the opportunity to eat dinner with someone real or fictional, who would that be? And what skill about them would you want to learn most about from them?
Wow. That's a great question. If I had to sit down and dine with them, oh my goodness. Ah, what can I say? There's so many wonderful
Yep.
writers. Oh my God.
Real or
I,
fictional? Anybody?
real or fictional? Oh, I see. Real or fictional?
Real or fictional?
Oh, I see. Well, I really should say George Clooney, but everybody is going to say that. So,
That's all right. We'll make that happen too, Kalpana. Someday, it's all about manifesting. You never know. It may just come
exactly, you
true.
never know, right?
You never know.
He could be listening to this podcast.
I
Who
surely hope
knows?
he
Who
is.
knows? So yeah, so that would be very fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I just love his sense of humor. But really, any of these guys, man, oh my God, this is such a beautiful time right now in America. I'm actually thinking of it as a beautiful time because humor has never been greater or funnier. You know, the wonderful things coming out with Stephen Colbert and, all of these guys, right? Literally everybody. I think I would love to sit down and have a meal with Trevor Noah.
Yes.
This it's just at the peak right now, and how I wish such a thing were possible. Unfortunately, you're just like my father would say, you're just a bed bug in society. Motapuchi, he said. We are
Oh.
all just bed bugs.
Well, we never know where the bed bugs can go, right? So,
I
Kalpana,
know. Thank
I
you.
do wish and manifest that you have a conversation with Trevor Noah someday, just like this,
Thank
on a
you.
bigger stage, on a
Ah,
bigger platform. For I'm sure that'll
thank
be
you.
as fun as this was, and I hope you are featured on Stephen Colbert's show as well sometime. So, because
Oh, by the way, I did want to say, with respect to this person, David Sedaris. He's a phenomenal writer. He's a very witty
okay,
writer, and that is his the big strength that he has is his humor. He's come
I
out with
see.
many books, and
Oh.
his essays in the New Yorker are such a delight. I would love to meet him, for instance.
I
So
really hope you get to meet David
yeah,
Sedair as well. And I really hope your upcoming book is featured in
thank
many
you,
of these
Purnima.
shows and platforms that you would love to be on. And
Thank
I
you.
also am excited for your upcoming class at Santa Clara University, which is
Thank you.
the two Indian cities, New Delhi and Chennai, two different vibes. And I'll tell you why I'm most excited. I am a Delhiite, as they say. I was born and raised in Delhi, and I got married in
That's
Chennai.
right.
So these are
Oh,
my
okay.
two states. So I look
Lovely. Two
forward to this
states.
class. These are
Uh-huh.
my two states, and I look
Uh-huh.
forward to this class. And the description and the registration for this class would be on the link of the podcast. So
Super.
highly recommend to everybody listening to go and check out the class and join, for it's going to be insightful, witty, and
I hope
fun,
so.
just like you, Kalpana.
Thank
Kalpana,
you so much, Purnima. I really appreciate. This has been a fun conversation. You do a great job of. I love the way you summarize, and it's just the whole thing was a lot of fun. Thank you.